can food be our disease? Well, yes, we know that. We know that since the, it really started with the, can I talk a little bit about the history of food?
Absolutely.
I think this is amazing. Yeah. So if we look before kind of like the 1900s, most people through, the way they died was mainly through infectious diseases, or starvation or war. So these were the three main causes of death. Since the Industrial Revolution, since World War I and II, the main cause of death today is now chronic diseases. So diabetes, heart disease, cardiovascular disease, Alzheimer's, dementia, cancer, all these diseases. So what has changed? Like, what has changed pre-1900s to now? Well, the biggest thing that's changed is our food industry. And we know that since food industry has taken over healthcare, research, governments, that we are now being fed foods that are causing disease. So it all pretty much started after, when America went to war. There was a guy called Ansel Keys, and Ansel Keys was a nutritionist that was asked by the government to come up with a food package that basically the army could have wherever they were. So it needed to be, packaged food that anywhere in the world that American soldier...
The rations for that.
For the rations, the K rations. Yeah. They could basically have a balanced, nutritious diet. So, while in the field. So Ansel Keys designed it, and American soldiers lived on it. And when they came back from the war, it just so happened it was also at the time... Oh, phone interruption.
Oh, no, it's okay. It's the guy for the air conditioner in the room downstairs.
Okay.
Anyway, we'll keep rolling. Continue.
Okay. So after the American soldiers went home, the food industry was like, oh, hold on a minute. Like, we can make some money from this. And it was just at the time where women were going into the workplace as well. So there was a massive drive and a massive impetus for all these companies, all these food companies, to come out with convenience food, because women now weren't at home cooking. Mm-hmm. So they used Ansel Keys's principles of like processed foods, combined with the fact that women weren't staying at home cooking pre-prepared food, and they came out with fast food, ultra processed food, all of this. At the same time, grains were changed. So, before you could have flour and bread and all of that. Then grains became an even bigger part of the food sector because they changed the pyramid. The food pyramid made grains the base of most people's health, because they can make money from cereals, bread, flour, all these things.
And what was it before?
If you go back, most, it depends on which part of the world. For example, Scandinavia would be quite different from like Africa, but most of us had a very high plant-based diet. With good fats would make up a lot. Fruit and sugars would be a smaller proportion because it would be hard to find fruit, and good quality meats and stuff like that.
Yep.
So the biggest changes happened when there's basically four things. We went ultra processed. So we basically messed up our food because we added different E numbers, different preservatives, different artificial ingredients, to the point where now if you look at back of a food label, you don't even recognize those things. You can't buy those things on the back of a food packet in a supermarket individually. Yep. It's not food. So that was number one. Number two, we went highly processed refined grains. Number three, we added loads of sugar to everything, added sugars. And number four, we used nut and seed oils. So margarines, vegetable oils, these all became the four big factors that have caused inflammation problems. Mm-hmm. And inflammation is the root of most chronic disease. So when people talk about Alzheimer's or dementia, which is a problem in the brain, yep, people kind of accept that, okay, it's a problem, we've just got it, it's bad genetics. No, in dementia and Alzheimer's are inflammatory problems, because inflammation is basically decaying the nerves and cells in your body, and the brain is the most sensitive. So have you ever been on like a day where you forgot to eat breakfast, right? Like you forget to eat.
Yep.
What goes first? your brain, you can't think clearly. Your brain is super sensitive. It might only weigh a few kilos, but it uses up a huge percentage of your energy. And when your brain doesn't have the right energy and the right fuel, it breaks down and gets tired very quickly. So imagine food impacts brain health so much, to the extent that we now call Alzheimer's type 3 diabetes. We know diabetes is a blood sugar problem, and we now call Alzheimer's type 3 diabetes. And this is the crazy thing. With all those chronic diseases I just mentioned, Alzheimer's, dementia, cancer, heart disease, cardiovascular, all these problems, most doctors, they look after you. So they look after the problem. We need to look before. The problems are caused by the food industry. And once you know that, you realize we need to change the way we eat.
For full episodes, visit our YouTube channel, Fruiting Body Podcast.